YouTubers, today we're going to be smoking ribs on a portable gas grill. Now I have 4 different flavors of wood chips to use. I've got mesquite, apple, hickory, and cherry. I got this all in a pack from Amazon that was just delivered within a couple of days. Now for today's smoke, I plan on using the apple. And this, I'm just simply going to open this up. And then I've got a box here that came with a man crate that my daughter gets me every year, or at least for the last 2 years. It's a good heavy duty box that's made out of cast iron. If you don't have one of these boxes, you can wrap up your chips in tin foil. So basically I'm just going to put the chips and spread them out. And because of the way I'm going to put them on the grill, I'm going to only put enough in there where I can cover it up. Now to get ready to set up my smoker on my small gas grill that any camper can use, the first thing I do is I remove my grate. Then I remove the deflector. I'll put the smoking box with the chips on the inside. Then I'll replace the grate. We're not going to worry about cleaning the grate because I'm going to be using a fish tray for it. Now, after wiping down my work surface with disinfectant wipes, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my ribs. Now I happen to get these ribs from a local place down here by Bradenton, Florida, called Detwilder's. Basically any ribs will do for you. You got a good source, and by all means go for it. And get rid of a couple things there, but anyway, pull my ribs out and I'll rinse them off just with some cold water. I like to rinse out my little wrapper. Kind of cuts down on the smell inside the camper. That kind of rhymes. Rinse out my wrapper so it cuts down the smell on the camper. Wow, I didn't know I was so talented. I'll do the other one. There we go, there's a bubble. You can get this knife, it's a Dexter knife. I get that off of Amazon, or else you can get them through actually one of my favorite YouTubers that does barbecue, and that's the host on How to Do Barbecue Right, Malcolm. He's really good, and I pick up probably most of my tips from him than anybody else. He and a guy out of Ohio called Wander Daniel, who does a lot of cooking in his Class B. So again, rinse this off a little bit. There we go. Put my lid back on here so I have a bigger work surface. Get my paper towels. Yeah, we do have some paper towels, even with the shortages, but we're starting to find, at least down here in Florida, that they're getting to be a little bit more plentiful. A close friend of ours in the park here went down to Costco and they brought out pallets full of them. Paper towels and toilet paper. So there might be light at the end of the tunnel. And he says when he left, toilet paper was all gone, but there was plenty of paper towels. Now at this little store that we go to all the time where we get the meat, they've got a large supply of generic paper towels and toilet paper. In the camper you can't use that much. You don't have that much storage space. So we don't go through an awful lot of it at one time, especially with just the two of us. Okay, now I've kind of dried that off a little bit. The next thing I want to do is I want to pull this membrane off. I got a little bit of extra fat and meat here. I'm going to cut this off. I don't know, I may not use it. It's kind of good for samples. And I think if I cut this off right, I'll probably be able to pull that whole membrane off without any problem. And the thing with the membrane is that it makes it kind of chewy and tough to bite through. And it's even pulling off pretty well on that. Throw that away. The other one looks like it's pretty good. Now what I always do, yep, I'm using a lot of paper towels, don't cringe. But I try to find a spot where I can get underneath it with a knife. And that usually works good. Usually on one end here, near the bone. You don't have to be real neat, just so you can get underneath it. Now, an old smoker's trip, just take a paper towel because it makes it easy to grab and just pull it right on off. Some say it doesn't matter, you can have some of it left on there. It won't make that much difference, but I do like to get as much off as I possibly can. Then kind of trim off whatever you don't want to use. If you get the little small pieces at the end, you're going to find you'll get more burns. It'll burn a lot quicker and it'll cook faster. I'll set that aside. I think I'll even cut this one out. It's just got a little bone on it. Do a little trim here. Fat off of here. You want a little fat on there because that way you get that flavor will cook through it. Okay, those are pretty good. I got that little piece there I want to trim off. There we go. That might make some good simulated burnt ends. Okay, this one looks like it's pretty good. I'm going to trim the end off of this. By far it's not going to be competition, but at least it'll look halfway decent. Competition, it's squared off, looking nice and neat. I'm not that kind of a guy. I'll decide if I want to keep that or not. Now again, I'll do the same thing with my little butter knife and get underneath here. This one's not doing so well. It's funny, sometimes they'll go real well, sometimes it doesn't. We'll give it a shot though. There we go. That's going to be enough to grab. Oh yeah, that's coming off real good. It's very satisfying when you grab a piece of that, they call it silver skin, off the back of the rib, and it pulls right off. All in one piece. That's a little sense of accomplishment. It's like you feel like you're doing something right. If yours don't trim out like this, that's no big deal. It's whatever makes you happy. There. Now she's ready. We'll leave that down in there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pan that I'm going to do the smoking on. Take a little, wipe this down a little bit so just to keep it a little sanitary. I don't need this, so I'll dump that. Leave the knife out just in case. Now this is the pan that I've talked about, and it's basically, I use this a lot for fish. Got the holes on the bottom. If you might have seen one of my other videos, I also use this by clipping it onto the front of a little buddy heater, and you can heat stuff up in the cold weather on top of that just from the heat that comes up from the bottom. I'm going to use this more in the right way, and what I did is I just wrapped foil around the top. I didn't wrap it all the way around, just enough to go over the ends. Just kind of press it down real good. Don't have to grease it at all because there's going to be enough fat in those ribs to actually keep it from sticking. Now the first thing I'll do is I'm going to get out, again, I got this from my favorite barbecue cook, Malcolm, on how to do it right. Hope he sees this so he sees the plugs. And he's got Killer Hogs AP seasoning. And what this is salt and pepper and garlic. So I just happen to like his real well. And I just kind of sprinkle the salt, pepper, garlic on it very lightly. I'll flip that over and I'll do it on the back side. Now the next one, I'll get the other one out and I'll do the same thing on that, just sprinkling that on there a little bit light. Now his last video, he says that he wraps it in cellophane and puts it back into the refrigerator and lets it sit for a while and it draws up the juices. But that's on one of his ribs that he does. He seems to like to make that kind for his home. I kind of go back to his earlier videos and I just sprinkle it lightly on both sides. Put my hands off so I don't get stuff all over my powder container. And then I use his barbecue rub. That I kind of put on there rather heavily. Enough to cover up the meat. You don't rub it, even though it's called a rub, you don't rub it in. You might pat it a little bit. Now I do it right on this tray because anything that goes off is going to go onto the tray and it's just going to add to the flavor. You won't get a lot, but rather than throwing it away, it stays on the tray. Hey, another rhyme. And we'll do her on the other side. Now I do a little lighter on that because this is the bone side down. And really you want it more on the meat than on the bone, but this just lets the flavor get through. I do think it's important though, make sure you get along the sides of the ribs. These are nice looking ribs. I like this store. They had ribs when we went in there I don't know how it is in your market, but these were $2.99 a pound for St. Louis style and $3.29 a pound for baby backs. I don't know, I've kind of gotten hooked on St. Louis style. I just like the way it sounds when I roll it off my tongue. You know, when I say it. These, I'll figure out something to do with those a little bit later. Now, YouTubers, first of all, I hope that there is a little breeze and it's not messing up on the sound on this, but if so, I apologize. I'll try to fix it in editing. But in the meantime, I've got my ribs all prepped and they're on my tray. And then I also have my pieces. Those are all set up. And what I did, I'm doing a little experiment. I treated them with the same type of AP rub, and then I also did the regular barbecue rub, and then I just wrapped them up in foil. We're going to see how that works out. We don't know. That's going to be a first time on that one. Now, I've started my grill, and I've got it smoking now. You can probably see that. And it's right around between, no, it's just about 300 degrees. So these small grills are hard to control. What I did is I started the grill only on one side, got one burner running, I've got it turned down all the way. What I'll do is I'll put my ribs on there for an hour and a half on the cool side, and then I'll spin them so I get even heat, and then I'll do it for another hour and a half. After that, I'll pull them off and wrap them. But we'll cover that when I get ready to do it. In the meantime, we'll put our ribs on. I'm going to pull the thermometer off, and I'm going to stick these just like so. I still get smoke coming through here, so I think I'll be all right. And then again, I've got to turn on all the way low. And we'll make sure that we can close this. You don't want to pinch the meat in there. There we go. Just so I can get this lip out. There we go. Now, I lock it. Hope you don't see the face, but if you do, well, whatever. And we're going to leave it for about an hour and a half. And then I'll go back and I'll check on it and spin it. The other ribs, I'll probably do the same thing with those. I think those may be done. I'll check them to see if they're done or not at that time, because they are over direct heat. So as you can see, it's smoking real well right now. So I don't know if you can see it or not on the video, but he is coming up pretty good. So it's got a real nice hickory smell to it, or apple, I think I got. Yeah, apple. So another thing to remember, when you're videoing something, make sure you got a fresh battery in it, and if you don't, take the time to change it. Don't do what I did. I started out with a battery that was only half charged, and halfway through this thing I had to switch it out. Fortunately, I was able to get through the last segment before it went into the red. So, well, we'll see you back in about an hour and a half. Now, it's been about an hour and a half since they first put the ribs on the smoker, or started smoking them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my little jersey gloves. These, again, give credit where credit's due. Got this idea, and actually I think I bought them right through Malcolm at How to Do Barbecue Right. Sounds like I'm pushing his channel more than my own, but anyway. And Put those on, plus I'm going to put on my rubber gloves. It's okay if I take a little time because they're not quite ready yet anyway. It's not quite been an hour and a half. And all I'm really going to be doing is switching them over from one side to the other so they I get more even heat. So, get switched over. Now, even though I'm running this at a low heat on propane, you will find you're going to be running through propane a little faster. It doesn't use that much, but it still does use some. So we'll flip it up. Ooh, yep, they're looking pretty good. Kind of juicy. See where they're kind of getting bent or burnt on one end. So this is where those liners kind of come in handy. Now, you can see we got a little shrinkage coming up, but that's good. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. I figured probably another hour and a half, those will be ready to come off. In the meantime, let's open this up. These are little burnt pieces or little ends. And these are cooking faster. I'm going to flip these over. I think these are going to turn out pretty good as well. I'd say probably by the time these are done, the ribs are done, these are going to be totally done. Now all I did is just I double wrapped them with foil, and then you just simply fold it over like so. That makes it easier to get at and to check. And I'm going to do the same thing with these as I did with the ribs, and I'm going to turn them. I'll close that for a moment. There we go. And I'm going to go get a little bit more rub for a moment. Now they got some more of the rub out of the camper. I should have had that out there earlier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit more of this rub and just give it a light little shake over the top, just to give it a little bit added flavor to it. And while we're at it, why don't we do the same thing with our little simulated burnt ends. I'll just add a little bit of this to it as well. Now we got a little bit of char, but that's all right. I think we're going to have some pretty good pieces there. Oh yeah. Yep, that's coming out nice. I call those samples. Now we'll close it. Lock her down. And we're going to let her run for another hour and a half. Okay, tubers, it's been about a total of 3 hours. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to pull our ribs off. Unhook this. I pulled our little pack off already and took a look at it. It's not looking too good, so I think it kind of left those on a little bit too long. But I've got to either stick around here and watch them, or else go down to the pool and have a margarita and hang out with the friends here in the park. And that's what I end up doing. Yeah, those are nice. You can see where the bones are starting to show there. The meat's kind of shrunk up. You're getting a real good look at those. Those are basically good enough to eat right now. I'm going to shut that off. And I'll take those on the inside. Now what I've done is I've taken a couple of pieces of tin foil. Unfortunately I don't have the larger size, I just have the smaller size. But I took 2 pieces each, put a long one down, then I put a short one down. Put a little strip of brown sugar, then I poured a little honey on it, and then I put like 3 little pads of butter on it. I did that on each side. Next, I'll take our ribs off the smoker. With the meat side down, I'll put them over the pads of butter in that little bed. Here's the other side. And that one's all done. Next I'll take a little brown sugar, sprinkle a little bit over the tops. Sometimes I put a little bit more, but I'm kind of limited as far as what I have on hand. This is kind of like the same thing that we do on the bottom. Next I take a little honey. Not too fancy, just go ahead and spray it over there a little bit. And the next I will get some butter. And I'll put a couple little pads of butter on top. I'll just use a couple, 2 pads each. That's all we really need. Then we'll see if we can wrap her up. One, I'm just going to move right back over to our tray. Do the same with the other one. I use this method to wrap it because that way it's easier to unfold and to check on it. Now I've kept the grill at the low temperature setting on the left side there, so it's maintaining our heat, and it's still plenty warm in there. Now what we're going to do is we'll put our ribs in here just sitting on the grill grates itself, wrapped in the plastic. We're not going to worry about refilling any of the wood chips because it's not going to make a difference. That won't penetrate through the foil anyway. So, and then I just simply close it and we'll let it set for about an hour. Now I'll probably get back in there after about a half an hour. I'll check them real quick to see how they're doing and then likely rotate them. Okay, tubers, time to check to see how they're doing so far. It's been about a half an hour. And we'll open up the first one. Yeah, she's looking pretty juicy. These are pretty close to being done. Turn this around this way, like this, slide that over there, so I'm kind of rotating it, and we'll take a look at the other one here. You can see that very well, but yeah, these are basically about done. That meat's shrunk up all the way around that bone. Those are just about as done as they can possibly be. We'll leave them on just for a little bit longer, let the heat get through, and then we're going to call her good. Seal that back up. Close and cover for maybe about another 15 minutes. Okay, I think these ribs are about done now, so we'll just go ahead and take them off. These gloves are invaluable. Got a little bit of juice coming out, but that's all right. Close that. And we'll take her inside. Okay, let's take in, we got them inside, let's take them out and unwrap them and see what we have. I think we did all right today. Oh yeah, those are good ribs. Those are real good ribs. Those aren't burnt. They're nice and juicy. And those are ready to go. Got a little burn in here. I'll cut that off. Let's take a look and see how these look. That's not too bad. There, you can see the smoke ring. These are actually falling right off the bone, but there's our little smoke ring right there. So she looks just about, it couldn't be any better than that. Nice little caramelization there. And that's just the brown sugar and the honey and the butter. So these are not diet ribs, but they are good. Oh yeah. Yep, those are great. Now we're going to take one slab over to our good friend George across the street for him and his son. And the other one Marilyn will have on her own. But these are real good. So if you get a chance, give it a try. They're pretty easy to do. Just follow the instructions. And in time you'll find probably a better way to do it yourself. But for me, this is the way I like to do it. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of smoking ribs on a portable gas grill. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And most of all, thanks for watching.